Welcome everybody. So in this little lecture, I would like to discuss with you some aspect of design on form validation and what it means in terms of tree traversal or of object traversal, accumulator, how we can distribute the knowledge of the validation of a system. So this is not a design pattern, this is not a coding idiom, this is more a discussion around variation and a design point. So the objective, this is to think of object, of course, but also about structure traversal and distribution of behavior, as well as to look at as object as accumulator in the sense of, okay, I can have an object that is a basket in which other object place a result. So what you see is that here on the screen, this is a screenshot of the iceberg Git support in Pharo, and you can select different ways of cloning or accessing your code. And then here, each of these selection will bring a different form. Basically, behind the scene, you don't see it, but there is an option pane that will contain different fields. And then the question, this is, how can I help the user not introducing mistake? So this means that the form should validate the input. Now, the question that we can ask ourselves, this is, who is responsible for doing the validation? Is it a single field or is it this group that should manage the semantic? And when I report, should I report here at this level? And when I press OK, what should I do? So this is what I would like to discuss and how to model these kinds of things. So basically, to answer this question, we should think about how do we navigate a tree of instance? Can we get children that decide that they don't care, or yes, this is my report? What do we report also? For example, what is the validation? What the validation should report? Should it report a yes, no? So the yes is easy because everything works well. But the no is less easy because if a user mistypes something, we would like to give a good feedback to the user. We would like to say to the user, okay, the file that you entered is not valid. It should end up with an extension, the correct extension, or these kinds of things. So basically, what we see from that perspective is that yes, no cannot really work because we want to have a more semantic of the mistake. So when I say that we have a tree, you have the option pane, and it contains other widgets. In fact, several other widgets. So we already have a tree, and it can be a lot more complex than that. Now, in a first design, what we could have is that we could say that any presenter, so the elementary widget in the tree, can be responsible to validate its contents. So we could have, for example, a method that is called isValidate, where by default it returns true, and a report like that. The widget could say, oh, was my input correct? Yes, no, and then what should we do in terms of mistake? And by sending a report, and by default the report could be, okay, I am the OK report, like a neutral operation in maths, a bit in the same ID. And then, for example, the input field that would be specialized for the path could say, oh, I redefined the method isValid by checking is my input field contents is really ending with the right extension, for example. And then the report in that case would be, okay, if there is something wrong, then I create a report and I said, I was expecting a GIF and you give me something that does not terminate, so please fix it. With that kind of report, the user interface could build another user interface that would display the error to the user in a nice way. And what we could do also is that the option presenter, the one that contains the other field, in that case could say, oh, I am valid if all my children are valid. The all satisfied means all the children should be valid. And the report, the option presenter could decide, okay, I create a report, I iterate over my children and I will collect basically their report. So I said, okay, if a children is not valid, then please add the report to the report. Like that, at the end, we would have a report with all the mistakes done in the form, because usually on long form, you get a lot of mistakes. So what you see is that the flow is basically like that. It goes from the option pane, the container, to each of his children. And during this flow, to have a report, we need to know if the validation failed or not. We ask, okay. The question we could ask ourselves, oh, maybe is valid, could have returned a report, we don't know. And what is clear is that if valid returns a report, then in that case, we should have a okay or not okay report and things like that. By the way, this is a design like that is done in to validate the Pharo MOOCs. We want to know if a MOOC is correct from a Pharo version. We execute all the tests, and then we have kind of okay or fail test, and they accumulate over the execution. This is a bit in the same way. Now what you see is that graphically, by the way, during the flow, I will always ask, is it okay? Give me a report. Is it okay? Give me a report. And now we could have also another design, which is, okay, I will navigate the element structure and pass a basket. That is basically, I said, hey, if you have a report, please add it to this basket. And like that, we don't have to ask. We just said, can you validate yourself into that? And an element that does not have a problem does not have to say if it is valid or not. If it does not add a report, then it is valid. And if it has a report, then there is a problem. This design would be like that. We could say, okay, validate into a report, and by default, do nothing. And then, for containers and leaf, the path presenter will just say, okay, in the report, please add this for self path, and probably it should say that this is a mistake on self, and probably not say path, but on self, so that the user interface can pinpoint and put in red the right field. Then the option presenter, what the option presenter would do is that the option presenter gets a report and it just passes it to these children. If he wants to do it via the children, he could also say, no, I decide to do it in another way. So I wanted with this little presentation to show example where we can question interrogative form, and we can play with different design. We can let the user decide if you want to join a process or so. And we can also potentially have double dispatch between the report and the container. And this is in this lecture. What I like is that nothing is black and white. We have some lecture where we said, okay, this design is bad or not good, and this one is much better. Here, this is unclear. So this is a really important aspect of object-oriented design, is that you should model things, and you should see what is your client, and how does it fit, how your design fit the client that you have and the problem that you have. So that's why this is important to explore design. So we don't have a predefined way to solve the problem that I show, but I really like the idea that, in fact, we can ask the receiver to get a value, or we can also do not care of the value, but pass a container in which the value get accumulated. And this is interesting to see that sometimes, especially on recursive structure, passing a container to collect information can be a good design.